Okay, who's ready for a little story time? So back in the beginning of my radio career, yes, radio career. A lot of y'all don't know. I was on the radio right here in San Diego, California. I am the best radio personality that you never heard of. Yeah, in the beginning of my radio career, I worked for Smooth Jazz 98.1, historic radio station, basically the flagship for the smooth jazz genre in uh, America. I worked with just a plethora of legends. The late Toddy Howard, the great Kelly Cole, Mike V, Melissa Sharp, Mark Zegan. Let's not forget about Shelley Fox, Jay Weidenheimer, Melissa Sharp, Lenny B. Shout out to Janiqua, Fred Green, everybody else who was in the building, or the buildings, I should say, from the times that we moved here and there. Anybody else I forgot, I'm sorry, I'm just coming off the top of the dome, but um, great radio station, again, the flagship for the smooth jazz genre. Until things went on with, how everything changes, things move with how things get rated, and the rating systems changed, and, the genre didn't become that popular on radio anymore, but it was a great run. And again, I worked with all these legends, and I had listened to Smooth Jazz 98.1 since I was a kid. So it was really kind of a dream to be able to work there and get on air. I always wanted to work in radio. So it was very cool. But nevertheless, there was a time early on when I was just working on the production staff. Well, first I started off working on the promotion staff, and I basically just talked my way in. I was working at the Spreckles Theater with my dad. Smooth Jazz 98.1 was doing a Mindy Abear concert. I saw the promotions director, who at the time was Kimberly Bianco, and shout out to John D'Angelo as well. Um, Kimberly Bianco was the promotions director at the time. I just walked up to her on a whim. I said, "Hey, look, I've been wanting to get on radio for almost all my life. I don't have time to go to school. I haven't had time. I don't have time to go to school at the moment. But look, like, how can I get in the building? Like, do you need someone to empty trash at night? Like, what do I got to do? Just let me get in the building, and I'll show you what I can do from there." And she told me, she said, "If you're serious," she gave me her car. She said, "If you're serious, give me a call, 9 o'clock Monday morning. Let's see what's up." 9 o'clock on the dot, Monday morning. Gave her a call, was able to get to the radio station, got an interview, was on the promotion staff. So, that's handing out the t-shirts, hanging out the posters, sitting up in the tent, all that good stuff. Eventually got into the production staff, and eventually down the road got on air at Smooth Jazz 98.1. But there was a time before I was on air. Maybe at this time I was on air, but only for a promotion. We did this easy money promotion where it was like every hour on the hour, when you heard the cue to call in, you could win $100, and you could do that all day. So there was 10 times a day that you could call, and there was no limit. So you could literally end up, if you were calling 10 times a day, you get $1,000. Then the cue was, it's easy money time. That's what I said. So that was the recording. And so at this time, I wasn't on the air in a broadcast shift yet. But there was a company, I don't even know if they still work in San Diego or not, but there was a company at the time called Metro Traffic. What Metro Traffic did was they contracted with all the radio stations around town. And what they do was provide the traffic updates for these radio. Would do a remote in during the set time. And they would do traffic updates for you while you're on your commute, whether it was in the morning or at night, it didn't matter, whatever. And I will protect names. People will remain nameless because their names are not really important. The thing that's important is the essence of the story and how to always remain true to yourself. So anyway, I went to Metro Traffic, and I went to Metro Traffic to try to see if I could get in and get on air to, update the traffic on air. And so I went down there, and I went to Metro Traffic. Somebody hooked me up to go down there, and I was able to go down there and do an air check. Now, those of you who don't know what an air check is, especially for my friends who are like in theater, or air check is basically the equivalent to a demo reel, right? Like it's basically an audition, or if you're a film, it's a demo reel that you submit. So I went down to do an air check, and I did a couple of air checks. Went in the booth, did a couple of air checks, came out, and the person who I was talking to listened to the air checks. And what I'm about to tell you, I really need you. I wish I could really just give you the cadence of how it went, but you have to listen to the words that I'm telling you for you to really get what I'm saying. So I go in, I do the air check. They're listening. And his first words were, well, you really sound black. Without missing a beat, I replied, well, that's not going to change anytime soon. Without missing a beat, they replied, well, such and such had that problem. I replied, that problem? Wait a minute. Such and such is black? Yeah. The implication was that I sounded black, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. I mean, I can think about what that means for people, but I don't know what that means. And I'll tell you why I don't know what that means. Number one, when he said such and such used to have that problem, my mind went, that person is black. So obviously something in my mind thinking, oh, I would never know by listening to that person that they were black, and why does that matter? But whatever. Um, Moral of the story is people do change how they sound. The same as people in Hollywood or wherever change how they look. People do change how they sound to get accepted. For me, that was a moment where I was like, well, I'll be who I am. No matter where I go, if I go to speak, if I go to be on air, wherever I show up, I'm going to show up being me. The reason why that's important is because growing up in my hometown of San Diego, I grew up in Mara Mesa. I didn't grow up in what was supposed to be the black part of town, whatever that. And what I received from a lot of people who did grow up in that part of town is that I talked white. That I sounded white. I could go back to Alabama with my mom and dad and my sister, and my brother, visit with families, and we could run into people and they would say, I sounded white. I talked white. I knew people from the Bay who would tell me I talked white, which when you hear people say this stuff is a construct, for me, that's anecdotal evidence that it is a construct. Because how can I be going to get it to, how can I go as a professional to be auditioning, to get on air, to be broadcasting on radio, and have one person tell me I sound black, but then have other black people tell me I sound and I talk white? Reconcile that. You can try, but you can't. The only thing you can do to reconcile it is realize it is a construct and it's all trash. It's all bullshit. Pardon my language. It's all trash. And the end of that for me was that I will always just be me. Nobody will be able to tell me what I am. Nobody will be able to tell me how I sound. Nobody will be able to give me honest judgment of that. Like how? It's got to be a construct. It can't be anything else. How can those two things exist? That is a quantum reality right there. How can these two things exist in the same plane? Because you don't understand me. And that's a shortcoming on those people who make those judgments on me, because they're stuck in their modes and in their experiences and where they're at and the people they're around. They all think the same. And they made these predisposed judgments that make no sense. And that's why I've always told anybody who worked in the arts administration, you're going to work in the media, be you. Be you. Yeah, the money's good. Be you. Just be who you are. It's not going to matter at the end of the day. And then when you're going to get older and you're going to wish you had just been you. You might cash some checks, and that's cool. I mean, if that's what it is, I know everything's transactional, and there are no real solutions. There are only, there are no real solutions. There are only trade-offs. I say that all the time, but at the end of the day, you got to just be you. At one time, to this person, I definitely sounded black, and at that same time, to these people, I definitely talked and sounded white. It makes no sense. And since it makes no sense, I don't have time to waste on it. And neither do you. Be you. People are being gatekeepers right now. How can you say that you're an advocate for freedom, freedom to be who you are, freedom for black people to be this, freedom for white people to be this, freedom for Hispanics to be this, but yet you don't believe in freedom because you're gatekeeping and you're putting somebody in the box saying, if you're not this, then you're not this. So therefore, I don't want to hear you talk about freedom. For any young people who are still going into the performing arts or forget the performing arts, you got to move to this world, move as you. It's all theater. It's all comedy and tragedy. That's all it is. That's why the new name of the podcast, the webcast, the Substack is Bread, Circuses, Ticketing, and Tech. Because that's all it is. It's all constructed to make you forget who you really are and be who you really are and be happy with what you are and to keep you off mission. That's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Talk to you next time. Follow me at ahmedsvoice.com. That's the hub. Follow me on Substack at ahmedsvoice, YouTube at ahmedsvoice, and on Instagram at ahmedsvoice. Different content on all our platforms. Thank you for listening. Talk to you soon.